But first, let's take you to Lille in France, where police have been engaged in something of a standoff with England fans. Earlier, we saw tear gas being fired to disperse crowds. As you can see, Sky's correspondent Tom Parmenter is there. Tom, what have you been seeing?
Well, Neil, we've seen a pattern of this through the course of the evening here in Lille, of skirmishes with England fans and some Russian fans being goaded. And what we've got at the moment just down this particular side street is a movement by a number of the French riot police, who, as you can see, are amassed in big numbers here. They've been monitoring a group of England fans who are down singing at the end of this road, and they have been very rowdy and mostly good-natured, but at times perhaps crossing over that line that has prompted the French police to action now, yet another police operation. We've seen, of course, tear gas used on the streets of Lille in other incidents in the last few hours or so, but it's always been quite isolated, always been quite contained and dispersed quite quickly. We have, at the moment, got a water cannon that is stationed just a street or so away that it seems like the French police are perhaps preparing to use. And it is a situation in which the police are trying to deal with some rowdy behaviour. It is England fans in this instance. We've seen instances of them being goaded by other nationalities, including Russians this evening. But the situation that they have at the moment is probably 200 to 300 England fans who are on this particular street. The riot police trying to move in and contain what is a rowdy situation, not necessarily violent situation that we've been seeing coming from those England fans, but one in which I think the French police have decided that it is time perhaps to take some kind of action to move what they see as some kind of problem. Now, of course, this comes against the backdrop of what happened in Marseille, but we know that the security operation that has been put in place in Lens, not far from here, and also here in Lille over the course of the last day or so, has been vastly more successful. But what we're seeing now perhaps is the last actions of perhaps what's happening here in Lille today, and the French riot police in position trying to deal with England fans who at times have been quite rowdy, have to say, but mostly good-natured. But of course, as ever, it is a minority of fans who have perhaps caused the French police to act and to take this kind of action that we're seeing on the streets of Lille tonight. We, as I say, have water cannon on standby, more French riot police moving in just to the side of us here. Batons drawn, and it certainly wouldn't be a surprise if there were further tear gas actions from the French police. As we move down this side street, we'll keep fairly tight in with this police line. It is something that has drawn around 4,000 security personnel into Lille today. The French police telling us they were expecting 10,000 Russians, Slovakians, French, Welsh and English fans. And it is that perhaps familiar pattern of the English fans at this stage, part of Lille tonight, the ones that are attracting the attention of the French riot police. But as I said earlier, we saw Russian nationality fans clearly goading and spoiling for a fight with English fans who are following their team ahead of this big England-Wales game that is scheduled to take place in the nearby city of Lens tomorrow. Earlier today here in Lens we had Slovakia playing Russia, and you can see one of the baton guns just next to us here, primed and perhaps ready to be used if it is deemed necessary by the French police. So we know have a robust approach to this. They said that they wanted this to be a festival of football, and you can see a flare being lit just down amongst the England fans who are gathered in this particular part of Lille tonight. The French police wanted this to be a festival of football, celebrated the right way, and of course that is something that they were aiming to achieve. But again tonight we're seeing this picture on the streets of Lille where unfortunately the scenes are focusing on a minority of fans, of the thousands that are in northern France, but it is the rowdy behaviour of those fans that is attracting the attention of the French riot police that we are amongst here live on Sky News this evening. And it is a rowdy situation in which we can see that further bottles are being thrown. And it is the kind of scene that the FA, the football authorities, just do not want to see associated with the England football team. But unfortunately, this is the situation that, again, they are dealing with on the streets of Lille tonight. We're just being asked to move back by some of the French riot police, which of course we are doing, but we'll stay with you. I can see around me several baton guns that are primed, ready to go just to our left here. French officers waiting to use them if, as I say, it is deemed necessary. Of course, a lot of coordination has been going on amongst British and French officers, British police officers here advising, perhaps acting as a go-between in some instances between English fans and the French police when perhaps there's been a language barrier or just a bit of British common sense that has been needed to mediate circumstances and situations that we've seen developing. As I say, most of the things we've seen on the streets of Lille today have been small, isolated instances, skirmishes really, that have fizzled out very quickly, and the police now charging forward. Okay, if you're still with us live on Sky News, we've lost some of the communications, but if you're still hearing us, as you can see, hundreds of French riot police charging England fans down this particular street in Lille, and I think that action will inevitably escalate this situation. Some of the, as I say, predominantly England fans who are in this group will see this now as a standoff on the streets of Lille. The water cannon, as we've been saying, are positioned just a street or so away, and it may be that, again, we see those used and deployed in the crowd control measures, but the French police certainly right now in Lille taking no nonsense whatsoever. They've decided that enough is enough. It was a group of 200 to 300 England fans based in a bar that we've been watching and just keeping an eye on for the last few hours or so, who had been getting quite rowdy. They've been singing all the familiar songs, drinking all day, and the alcohol ban that had been in place for public places in this city, I have to say, while it works on one level, when you have bars and restaurants that are still serving alcohol, it is almost academic that the shops, the takeaways and the supermarkets can't sell alcohol because fans like this will drink. And again, the French police moving very quickly to try and ensure safety on the streets of Lille. Andy, down there.
Lost calls. Just keep talking, mate.
As you'll appreciate, communications are very difficult at the moment, but the French police really moving in very robustly, and I think some England fans down on the floor injured just in front of us on this pavement. One man trying to bring his friend away, and you can see some of the canisters, perhaps of tear gas, being fired into the night sky, and England fans scattering down this particular street. These are precisely the kind of scenes that the FA, the footballing authorities, just would be dismayed at seeing. And England fans, unfortunately, once again find themselves caught in clouds of tear gas on the streets of a French city. And through the majority of the day, the security operation here has been working. It seems to have been proportionate to the threat that has been going on here. And I think the response that we're seeing now is certainly an escalation of the police tactics to try and send a clear message to the England fans that were gathered outside that particular bar that the French police had had enough of the rowdy behaviour. But the reaction that they get now, perhaps from the England fans who have been dispersed, will be very interesting to see how they deal with this. Will the England fans who were at that bar, who have been charged by the police in the last hour or so, simply decide that this probably isn't the best place to stay around? or will there be further clashes? We'll obviously just have to wait and see, but it is a depressing escalation of what we've seen over the course of the last day or so. Because, as I say, the security operation had been working well, but tonight further fresh clashes with riot police charging England fans and firing baton rounds, and also with water cannon on standby. And England fans, from what we can hear from the discussions going on with the French police, saying that what is going on is completely disproportionate to what the England fans at this particular bar were doing and what prompted this very robust police response.
He's calling me now. No.
Well, that voice you've been listening to there, Sky's Tom Parmenter. Just going to see if Tom has managed to re-establish communications. Tom, no, in fact, I don't believe so. Well, what you've been witnessing in the centre of Lille certainly marks something of a change in tactics. We witnessed, as Tom was saying there, they've been monitoring a large group of English fans in one of the bars in the centre of Lille. Despite that ban on drinking in public places, it would appear that the group of English fans somehow managed to get hold of a reasonable amount of alcohol. The police had been keeping close tabs on them. As you can see, lines of armoured riot police, the type that you would usually see in situations of urban disorder, began to move on them, trying to push them back. To what end, we're not entirely sure. But as Tom was saying, it would appear that in the melee, several England fans would appear to have been injured. Indeed, it looks, at least one fan, a French fan, it would seem that because of the tear gas that was fired into the crowd, you know, there are going to be a number of people who will not be feeling very well at the moment. Tom, I understand that you can hear us once again. Take us through exactly what we've been seeing there. What is the point of this line advancing upon these people? And were they causing a problem when you were monitoring them earlier on today?
Well, as I said, Neil, we've been keeping an eye on this particular group of 200 and 250 England fans who gathered at a bar, very rowdy, drinking probably for most of the day, but the kind of typical thing that you get with England fans abroad, singing the songs, getting quite leery, I suppose you'd say. And also, we did see one England fan who was naked on top of one of the road signs outside this particular bar. And it seemed that it got to the point in the last 20 minutes or so that the French police decided that they wanted to move this particular group on. We've seen them quite successfully dispersing groups over the course of the evening. And as I say, there have been minor skirmishes through this city. And we've seen tear gas used in some instances, but those instances have always fizzled out quite quickly. And you can see some young girls quite upset by what they're seeing and possibly injured. That one girl just limping away from what's happening here. And yeah, I think that there is some kind of gas in the air that I think that the French police have fired into the crowds to try to disperse people, to try to disperse the England fans who, in the French police's view, were causing problems. I have to say they were getting quite rowdy in that particular bar. They didn't seem to be causing or looking for any aggro, but they were very noisy and causing quite a spectacle, and the French police simply decided that they had enough. And now in these particular side streets in Lille, you have a situation where the police haven't necessarily got all those England fans in one place as they did have before, because they've been charging, as we've seen in the last few minutes on Sky News, throughout at this group of England fans and firing tear gas once again into the air. And also with one or two bottles flying as well, which of course is just the kind of thing that the football authorities didn't want to see. We know the warnings have been put out quite clearly about the behaviour of English and, as we know, Russian fans. The for the Russian team following on what happened in Marseille. But having seen what we saw of this group outside this bar, it was simply the French police deciding that the rowdy behaviour had perhaps gone too far. It wouldn't continue into the night, and therefore the French riot police decided to move in and form the kind of lines that we can see right in front of us now. And within them, as I say, officers with baton guns prepared again to use them if it is deemed necessary. But I have to say, coming back from the England fans' point of view, as we just get behind this police line, because we obviously don't want to be
it would appear that, at least for the time being, we may well have lost Tom Parmenter's microphone. But once again, you can see the French police in their riot gear advancing in a line. The point of this, it would appear, is to attempt to disperse the England fans, but for now it's unclear whether or not that action was necessary. They clearly felt it was so. It's also unclear whether this tactic will serve to disperse the fans or merely drive them from one location to another. We will try and re-establish communications with Tom Parmenter, monitor events in Lille, but first we'll take this short break.
From the central crater. It's magnificent.
The former BHS owner, Sir Philip Green, today promised that he would fix the multi-million-pound hole left in the company's pension scheme when it collapsed. BHS went into administration in April, less than a year after Sir Philip sold it for £1. In a combative evidence session with MPs, the billionaire retailer did acknowledge he'd made mistakes and apologised for his part in the company's downfall. Our city editor, Mark Kleinman, reports.
He's